In this video, we're going to discuss what a lament psalm is and why it is important for your spiritual health. I'm really excited about this topic because I believe lament is one of the most underutilized practices for our spiritual health. And as we answer the question, what is a lament psalm, we're going to be taking a look at a book by Dr. Tremper Longman III called How to Read the Psalms. And as he defines a lament, he says, "The lament is the psalmist's cry when in great distress he has nowhere to turn but to God." And he also says that we discover three types of complaints as we read through the laments. The first is the psalmist may be troubled by his own thoughts and actions. Secondly, he may complain about the actions of others against him, his enemies. And I think all of those we've put into practice before in our prayers, but this third one is really what I want to hone in on this video. He says, thirdly, he may be frustrated by God himself. When we look at the book of Psalms, there's 150 total, and of those 67 are actually laments. And this really, when we reflect on life, how much pain there is, we really should not be surprised that this many of the prayers, the hymn books of Israel, were laments. And within these laments, they're both individual laments and they're also corporate laments. And what I'll do in the description is I'll leave an example of some of those for you to be able to be reading and to get a better feel for what the laments are. And what we'll be doing today is we're actually going to read one together out of the NRSV, and specifically it's going to be Psalm 13 verses 1 through 6. And the Bible reads, "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I bear pain in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all day long? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep the sleep of death. And my enemy will say, I have prevailed. My foes will rejoice because I am shaken. But I trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me." As we read that, one of the things that I hope you picked up on was the honesty that the psalmist had when praying to God. And as you go through the list that I leave in the description, you're going to see this pattern that they are actually brutally honest with God, how they feel at times. And we should take encouragement in that because God wants us to do the very same thing in our prayers because it's a healthy environment for us to do that. And I want to take a look actually at the structure of this psalm just briefly. And that's actually something that we see throughout many of them, that the psalmist will start his prayer out in so much pain, questioning God, where are you? Why are you allowing this to happen? But then somewhere kind of in the middle of the psalm to the end of it, we see a transition where they've worked through this in prayer with God, and they come out of it to the other end where they're praising God. They're talking about his grace, his mercy, his love. And that's one of the patterns that we see. Now, although that's a pattern, patterns at times are broken. And in the great book, The Psalter Reclaimed by Dr. Gordon Wenham, he writes, "Though laments usually end on a note of hope, several do not. Though at some point they may express hope, the psalmist sometimes reverts to despair at the end. His glimmer of faith seems extinguished. But there is one psalm that contains no expression of hope or faith anywhere." And that's the end of the quote. And he's actually talking about Psalm 88. Although there is no ending with hope or joy or anything like that, we do still see this pattern of open and honesty before God in prayer. And I hope, brothers and sisters, that you're seeing here that this is how God wants us to communicate with him. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that the purpose of this channel is not information, but it's actually transformation. We want to be not only learning about the Bible, we want to learn about God, who He is, so we can allow the Spirit to transform us more into His likeness daily. And again, as I mentioned before, I think this is underutilized, this practice of lament. And you may even be asking, why would I pray a prayer like this? It seems like it's actually rude or disrespectful. Or why even pray this type of prayer when God already knows how I feel? And why I've asked those questions, they're legit questions. We need to take our cues from the Bible and not our feelings or even what we've been taught. Because think about Jesus while He was on the cross. He prays Psalm 22, which is a lament psalm. And when we see Jesus in the garden and even throughout His ministry, He's honest with His Father in prayer. He was fully human and yet fully the Son of God while He was on earth. So He took on exactly the feelings that we have, but He expressed those in a place that was safe and healthy with His Father in heaven. Brothers and sisters, that's exactly what we need to do. We need to understand first what the lament psalms are. They are important. Hopefully I've convinced you of that. But I want to take a look at one last quote and we'll wrap this up. But brothers and sisters, I hope this has helped you maybe have a different perspective on prayer. And when we're struggling, God wants to hear exactly how we feel. And the other thing, I pray that this may be helpful for a friend or family member that's going through something very difficult, that you know this may be an opportunity for you to teach them about the God that loves them and cares for them. Let's end out with this quote. God bless you. Dr. Gordon Wenham again, he writes, "Not everyone who comes to church is full of joy and happiness. There are many who come with great burdens, both physical and spiritual. Sickness, marital problems, financial difficulties, pressure at work, even harassment and persecution. Old age brings all sorts of problems with it. Often people see no other way out, and they need to be allowed to cry out to God in their distress, just as Job did and Jesus Himself did. Sufferers may pray the laments with hope that they will be able to say not only, 'How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever?' but also, 'I will sing to the Lord because He has dealt bountifully with me.'" Psalm 13, verse 1 and verse 6.